No stains, no paint, just the beautiful color and grain of the wood. We made this beautiful tulip cross today, and I'm going to show you how to make this step by step right now. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. Hey you guys, I'm so excited. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful tulip cross. Now this tulip cross, there's no stains, no paint on it. It's just the natural wood colors, and we work together with the grain direction and with the colors, and we made this beautiful cross. I'm going to show you how to make it. It is not hard at all. This is called an intarsia when you do this kind of art. And it is glued up onto a backer board. You can see the backer board. It's a 1/4 inch Baltic birch plywood. But I think it ended up so cute. It's really not hard. It does take a little bit of time, but it's not hard at all. And it's super fun to make. Really a beautiful cross. So let's get into it and show you how I made this. Now the first thing we need to do to start this project is understand how to read the pattern. So I'm going to point you to my bench. We'll look at the pattern and I will explain to you how to read it. So here is how we read the pattern. Here is our pattern, and the first thing you will see is the red lines. The red lines represent our cut lines. So we will be cutting everywhere where there is a red line. The next thing you will see is that we will have these letters MD, MD, ML, M. Those represents the colors. So in order to keep track on which piece we cut from which color, they are numbered. So D, and D. D stands for dark, so that means the cross is made from a dark wood. Then ML, that's a medium light, so the tulips are made from a medium light wood. They do have some pieces that are marked with M, those are for medium, and that will be kind of to give it a two-tone effect, to give it more 3D effect. So those are the colors, the letters, and then also you will see these arrows going down. I don't know if you can see them, so I'm going to bring it closer. You will see arrows on your pattern, and those arrows represent the grain direction. So you will see this stem, the grain direction will go like this one goes like this, but then this leaf over here goes straight up and down, and so is this stem. So this will help you determine how to glue your patterns to the wood to get these grain directions. Another thing you will see on a pattern that you need to understand is you will see something like this here that will say a negative 1/4. So -1/4, -1/4, -1/4, -1/4. You will see it here on the cross too. And what it means that whatever thickness we choose for the flower itself, the cross should be a 1/4 inch thinner, so it would appear that it's behind the flowers and the flowers are standing in front of the cross. So we have to make sure that whatever that dark wood we're using for the cross should be a 1/4 inch thinner than the flowers itself. So the first step you need to do when you look at your pattern is to number your pieces. So every single piece that you will cut out, you have to give it a number. So you start at 1 and go to how many pieces they are in their pattern. On my case, I numbered them all wacky here because I thought that I was going to cut the leaves and the stems from the same wood, so I cut it all at once. But I was wrong because the grain directions is different, so these two can be cut at the same time, but then these two different time, and this from a different piece of wood. And because of that, once I already numbered them and I realized I was wrong, then I just changed them to 1, 1C, 1A, 1B, and so on. So my numbering, it's a little bit wacky, but you get the idea. Number each one of your piece. Once you have everything numbered, make copies of your pattern and then cut them into tiny pieces. So you should have one piece for every piece you will be cutting. So that's what I did over here. Now that we determined how to read the pattern, it's time to choose your woods. Here is what I chose for my cross. For the dark wood for the cross, I'll be using walnut, and this is 1/2 inch walnut. For the tulips, I chose aromatic cedar, and I chose this because not only has a pretty color, but it's a very soft wood, so it makes it easy to sand. And I chose 2 different blanks here. You see this one has a lighter pink, and this one has like more purplish, darker pink. So for the dual tone flowers, we're going to be using both blanks. For the leaves and stem, I will be using poplar because I have this piece that is pretty green, and this is going to be perfect for leaves and stem. Now, in order to stick your patterns to the pieces of wood, you will be needing some blue tape and some glue sticks. So let's start with our leaves. So here is my poplar. I'm gonna find some of my pattern that represents the leaves. Like this one, for example. And first thing I like to do is cover my blank with blue tape. That way, the glue from the glue stick is not going to leave any residue on our wood, so we don't have to sand it later on. I have this 3-inch wide blue tape, which makes really quick and easy work of doing this. Now, because I have this blue tape, now I can glue this straight in here, but one important thing that I learned that makes things a lot easier is to put blue tape on the other side of the blank as well. This will help us a lot later on when we do the finishing. So there you go, my blank is completely covered in blue tape. Maybe I'll put one more piece over here. So now I'll take my stem. Now if you remember, if you look, the grain goes this way on the board, so we have to keep account of that. So I'm looking here, the grain goes kind of this direction. So I think I can glue that right here and be safe. Take my glue stick, just kids glue stick, and put a generous amount. You do not want this pattern to come off as you're cutting. There you go. Make sure you look at your grain. It goes in the right direction. So there's one. Where is my other? So this one will go like that. I used to use the 77 spray, which just makes a mess. This works so well, and it's easy. So there you go, grain goes up and down on this one. And I think this is the last one. I'm gonna put it like that. All right, you guys, I'm done gluing my patterns to my blanks. Here is my poplar, and then I have my aromatic cedar, and of course the walnut for the cross. So now that I am ready to start cutting off my pieces, I'm gonna cut this on the scroll saw, and I'm going to use a Pegas geometry modified #3 blade. The geometry modified blades is the only one for me that they don't drift. They cut completely straight, so it makes it easier for me. #3 is very thin, so you have more control, but also not so thin like a 0 or a 2 where it actually starts deflecting a lot. So 3 works for me. You use whatever works for you. I'm gonna go to the scroll saw, cut all these pieces out, and then I will see you after. All right, you guys, I have cut out all the pieces, so let's go to the table and I'll show you what it looks like. So here is all my pieces cut. As you can see, my cuts are not the most accurate. They're not incredible, they're not even that great. But this is the best I could do with my skills that I have right now. I'm not an expert on cutting with a scroll saw, but this is our pieces. And what we need to do now is we need to remove our template from the top part of the wood. And whatever number we put for our piece here, we need to transfer it on the back. That way we can keep track of our pieces. So for me, this was 1C, so I'm just gonna put 1C. And I'm going to remove, and because we put that blue tape, it should remove really nicely and leave no glue residue there. So this one for me is one. Oops, almost removed the back instead of the top. I love this stage because this is where kind of we get a little preview of what it's going to look like. Now here is our piece right after we cut it, and as you can see, it's pretty boring and flat. So we need to make this now more 3D. So that means we have to shape it. Shape it is the first stage. We'll do the shaping first, then we'll do the sanding, then we'll do the glue up and so on. So let's move on to the shaping. Now you might say, Skylar, what is this shaping? What's the purpose of it? What exactly are we looking to do? Is it just a round over around the edges? Well, I'm going to point you back to our project and I'm going to show you exactly the things I'm looking for and what I'm planning on doing. All right, I think this is going to give you a better angle. I am going to shape, I'm going to start with this leaf. So what am I going to do to this leaf? First of all, I'll put a round over all around it. Then this part where the leaf meets the cross, I don't like the way it just bumps up straight up. So I wanted to kind of make it melt one into another. So the way I will do that with my pencil, I'm going to hold it and mark it. So I know that my round over of the leaf has to go to that line and ends in there. And that will give us a very nice melting into the next piece. I hope that makes sense. Melting is not the right word for it. So now when I take this leaf, I'll mark it on this side too where it meets the cross. Let me place it exactly the way it was. So this side is the same thing. So now when I look at this, I know that this round over here has to go all the way to this line, maybe even a little bit lower, because this one is going to get a little round over too. So I have to go to this line on this side, to this line on this side, that's where it meets the cross. Put a round over all around it, and then here, what I would like to do on this corner, I wanted to taper it. So I'm going to sand it kind of like this. So remove this part over here. That way it just kind of gives it a nice shape. So I'm going to shape this. I'm going to show you what I'm going to use and how I'm going to do it. So let's do that. Let's talk a little bit about shaping tools. What should you be using to shape with? Now to shape this, use whatever tool you have in your shop. If you have a spindle sander, you can run it and round over and shape like this. If you have a belt sander, you can use this one as well to shape. You can even use a disc sander. It will be a little bit tougher with this one, but you can still do it. You can use a rotary tool with some sort of burr if that's what you have. You can use a Dremel with like a sanding attachment like this, or a little burr. Or even these sanding discs. I really like these guys. The Easy Lock ones comes in different grids, and those work really, really well. You can use in your drill press, you can put something like this. This is a drum sander. It comes in different thicknesses, and you put the sandpaper, whatever grit you want on it. So you could be using that. For me, my favorite tool is this one over here. So this is what I'm using. And I'll put a link in the description below for this one. So the reason I like this one is because I'm using pneumatic drums. So you see these guys are squishy. I have to put air in it. You just remove this little knob and you inflate them with a bicycle pump. So that's what I have here. I have a large one and I have a smaller one. This one, it's 120 grit, and this one is 240, I believe, or maybe this is 80 and this is 120. I can't remember what I put in here. I do need to put air in them. They're too squishy. They want to be inflated at 15 psi. But I'm just going to show you how I do it, and then I'll inflate it and do the rest of the pieces. Now, when you sand, make sure you use a mask. I'm going to use this mask right now, but usually when I do this, I use a full-on respirator. But I'm just going to do this one piece for now, and then I'll do off camera the rest of them. So I'm just going to put my mask on because it's easier on and off. And I have this chute over here. I'm going to put my big dust collector. I'm going to hook it up in here. So that kind of sucks most of the dust into my dust collector. So let me do that. There you go. So I'm going to start shaping with my lower grit sandpaper. So I'm going to use this one first, and then I'm going to move to this one. I have shaped my leaf, and this is what it's looking like. Remember, I said I will put a taper onto this end, so I did. You see how much thinner it is than it is here. I kind of rounded over all around it, and I went with the round over heavier on this side and on this side to meet my pieces here. So when I put this one in here, this is 3/4 inch. Remember the poplar, this is only a 1/2 inch. But now when I put them, you see how they kind of rolls into the next one. It's not an abrupt straight edge like it would be when you have it like this. Now it just kind of goes together, flows one into another. Now when I put a small round over on this piece over here, I might have to take this down just a little bit more so they meet perfectly. But that is the goal of the shaping. And here you can see I tapered it nicely downwards, and that's what shaping it is. So now I'm gonna take piece by piece and do this kind of shaping and see how this whole project is shaping up. But so far, one leaf done. I don't know if you can see it. It's looking fantastic. Hey you guys, it's the next day and we are in my finishing room, and that's because it's time to put a finish on this project. Before we do that, I'm gonna bring you in close. We'll look at it. We'll see what it looks like once I shaped it and sand it. And so let's do that really quick. So this is pretty much what we got. Remember, we did this leaf together, and then I continue and did every single piece just like I showed you on this leaf. And I'm looking at it and it was looking great. I'm very happy with the way it's looking, except this leaf over here. If you notice, this poplar piece here is quite a bit wider than the rest of the poplar. And I don't mind that so much. It is a different color. If it was darker, it would have been okay. But because it's wider, it just kind of bothers me, because this leaf is suggesting that comes from behind and it's sticking out here. And you want the things that are behind to be a little bit darker, not lighter. So because I didn't like that, I went ahead and cut a new piece. And there you go. That is going to be our new piece there, and I think that goes a lot better. So everything is sanded. We still have the blue tape that we numbered. That's why we put the blue tape on the bottom and the top, because the top we had to remove to sand. So now we still have everything on the bottom. So now it's time to apply the finish. For the finish, I'll be using this Old Masters Gel Poly. General Finishes make another gel poly that is really good quality, and I like it a lot. And I prefer to use that because I really like the finish. You could just use spray-on poly. I don't like to use this one so much. I will use it for the back though. And that is because it raises the grain too much, and then you have to sand, and you can't really sand in all those crevices. So where the gel poly doesn't raise the grain, or if it does, it's very, very little. Now, if you know me for a while, you know I like to use oils and waxes on my projects. However, for this kind of project, that is not appropriate. One, because the oil will seep under the blue tape, and then once we have oil there, the glue will not stick and we can't glue it to the backup board. And then also because when you use an oil and a wax, after so long, 6 months, a year, it's good to re-put another coat of wax in it, and it will be very hard for someone to recoat this. So I want something that will be permanent, that will last a lifetime. Now, to apply this gel poly, I'll be using a mixture between just a white t-shirt material and a brush. And the goal here is to put the gel poly on the top of the piece and a little bit going down on the sides, kind of like where you can see on the edges. But you do not want to go all the way because we need bare wood in there. So when we put the glue to stick all these pieces together, it still has something to adhere to. If we put poly all the way down, then the glue will not stick to it. We don't need a lot of glue in there. We only need a little bit because the strength of the piece is not going to come from us gluing the pieces together. It's going to come from us gluing the pieces to a backer board. And we only need to make the pieces stay together temporarily, or very minimum, just to be able to trace it and make a backer board for it. So I'm going to put on some gloves. Now, if I do happen to rub some of the poly all the way down to the sides, it's okay because it's just a varnish. It just sits on top of the wood, so I can easily sand it off if I need to. So I have my gloves on. I need to open my can and give it a little stir. Now, every time you're using a finish, doesn't matter what kind of finish, you should never use it from the container. You should put some on a little different container. That way you don't contaminate it. However, I know I'm gonna go through this jar in a week or so. I'm not really worried about it. I'm gonna use it straight from the container. But you should not. You can see this is a gel consistency, and it really leaves a quite beautiful finish, so I like it. All right, I'm going to make a mess here on the table, but that's okay. I am going to start, let me make sure you can see everything, and you can. So I'm gonna take piece by piece, and got it on my table already, that's okay. I'm just going to kind of like this, put some on top. And you want to let this sit for a couple of minutes, but not too long. If it starts to get sticky, then you don't want to have that. So, and just like that, I'm going to leave it there until I do a couple of more pieces. And then I'm going to go back and wipe it off. Super, super easy finish to apply, very forgiving. So this is what I'm doing. And I'm trying to leave that all around edges, even the pieces like here we don't need to glue it to anything, so we could go all the way down, but instead of me trying to keep track of where I should go all the way around and where I shouldn't, I'm just gonna leave it all around a little bit empty in the bottom. I hope that makes sense. And then we will put another coat of finish once it's glued up and cover all those edges. Right now, just kind of doing this roughly. Oh, I forgot to mention, after I shaped the pieces, I also hand sanded. I went with 120, 150, 180, and 220. So everything has been sanded up to 220. Now we did marked every piece with a number on the back, so we know where everything goes back on. And for this piece, maybe it's not so important because there are not that many pieces. But if you're working, imagine, with an intarsia piece that has like 200, 300 pieces, that is absolutely crucial that you do mark where your pieces go. All right, you guys, while those are drying up a little bit, we need to prepare for the glue up. For the glue up, I'll be using some of this transfer tape. And don't worry, I'll put all of this in the description below if you're interested in purchasing them. But this comes really, really helpful when we're doing glue ups. So basically, it's just a sticky paper on one side. So I cut a piece out, and then let's see, I'm gonna start peeling it, and we want to put the sticky side up. So we'll use this with the sticky side up. So I'm going to start peeling it. And I'm going to use some blue tape to hold it in place because right now it's just unmanageable. So there you go, one corner. And then I'm gonna do the other corner. And I'm gonna go get the paper with the pattern, and we'll put the pattern underneath. There you go, that should work. So I can see my pattern through that, and you know what, I need to take my gloves out anyway. What are we gonna do now is we're going to take every one of the pieces, take off the blue tape, write it with a marker, the number underneath. So this one is number 3. I am going to remove the paper and write a 3 on it. So do that with every single one of them. The blue tape, it's done its job, which is just make sure that we don't put finish on the back. All right, I removed all the blue tape from the back and re-numbered. Now it's time to glue the pieces together. I'm gonna try something different. Usually I would just use some wood glue and some in combination with super glue to glue them all together. Today I'm gonna try this 15 minutes epoxy, and I'm hoping this will work and be faster. So I've never tried it before, so I'm thinking this is the perfect time to try it. We could have a complete fail. We'll find out. So this is equal parts A with equal parts B. So I'm just gonna put here, let's see, I have a spoon. I'm gonna put, I don't know exactly how much I need, but I'm gonna put 1 spoon of the A and 1 spoon of the B. So this cures really, really quick. Like I said, it's a 15-minute epoxy. It dries super clear, so that's another pro. Mix it well together. It smells awful. I don't like the way this epoxy smells, but if it works, it's gonna be all worth it. If it doesn't work, then, well, you will know. All right, I mixed it all up. So I'm gonna use a small brush, and let's see. Do we want to start from the bottom to the top or from the top to the bottom? I think I'm gonna start from the bottom. So first we need the two bigger leaves, which are these guys. So I'm gonna put this one in here, just like that, on top of my pattern. I'm not gonna be super exact. This is just kind of roughly. And then this one goes like this. So I just need to put the glue over here, or the epoxy really. So I'm gonna do that. We don't need much, like I said. The strength of it will come from gluing it to the backer. So I'm gonna push it really good in there, and this sticky paper is going to hold it in place so it's not shifting at all. That is looking good. Next we need, let's see, I'm gonna put this piece over here, which is this one. This will go in there. My epoxy started to thicken up a little bit. It's giving me some trouble. I had some strings of epoxy sticking to this. Okay, gotta move quicker. This one goes in there. And the epoxy is unusable at this point. You made a crust in here. You can see I can lift the whole thing up. So I'm going to mix another little batch. So I need another container. All right, this one goes here, this one goes here. All right, you guys, it's okay. It could have been a little bit better. Something I didn't glue it right, but it's looking okay. So I'm gonna let this cure in here while I go walk my dogs, and then I'll be back and we'll go see what the next step is. All right, you guys, well, epoxy was not a good idea. I recommend using wood glue. Wood glue will have a longer work time, so you can actually shift things around if you need to. However, I was able to position them and looks just fine. The epoxy, it is kind of holding it together right now. This is what we got. And I went ahead and put some finish on the sides as well, because remember, we didn't have finish on the sides. And now it's time to make a backer board. I already cut the backer board. It's right here. And the way I did it is I took some 1/4 inch Baltic birch, and then I placed my cross on top of it, and took a pencil and traced it. And then inside of that trace, I left about a little bit of space, like maybe this much. And then I traced again on the inside. So I'll show you the way it looks. So our backer is just a little bit smaller than the piece, something like this. So what I want to do now is I want to take this backer, let me put the cross back. So I want to take this backer and I want to spray paint it black. I'm not going to use a spray paint because I'm afraid that the paint will prevent the glue from sticking to it. So I'll be using this black matte primer. I don't really want to do the front and the back. I only want to do the part that is going to be under the cross. That way, if we have any kind of gaps in there, the black will hide that and will just look like shadows. And then also I want to have the edges black so we don't see the white plywood, but I will leave it white on the back, so I'll put painter's tape here to block it so it will not get the primer on it. If sometimes the primer seeps in from under the blue tape and it turns black, then I will do the back as well, but my plan is to make it not have the black on the back. So I'm gonna put blue painter's tape on the very back of it. I'm gonna go outside, then spray it with the primer, and then we'll come back and we will glue the cross to the backer. Let's go outside and spray this. Kind of press it on the edges, make sure that that primer is not going to sip in there. Well, that only took about 30 seconds to dry. It dried super quick. So I'm gonna take off the blue tape and see what we got underneath. Looks like it stayed pretty clean, really clean. So that worked out well. And now it's time to glue the cross to the backer. And then when it's all glued and dried and stuff, I will spray it with some poly on the back. And because this is an oil poly and the gel that we use, it's an oil poly, they will work good together, they will not fight, so they will stick to each other, and it's going to be great. So they are compatible, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, for the glue, I will be using, let's see, I'll be using some of this glue. I like this one because it dries completely clear. So, you know, if you use a wood glue like Tide Bond that dries white, and then you have white here on the black, then you can see it through the gaps if you have any gaps. So I'm just going to use this one. So the way we do it, let's see, I'm going to put, and this is where the strength comes on the cross. That's why you want to use good quality plywood. That's why I use Baltic birch. And we'll use plenty of glue here, no skimping, but we do not want any squeeze out. So I'm going to put glue, and then I'm going to use CA on the edges. I went too close to the edge over here, so I'm going to remove some. All right, so now I'm gonna go with the thick CA glue and just go dot, 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 dot. Oh. All right, so we have done that. Now we have to pick up our cross. This paper is so sticky. There you go. And I'm gonna place it on it. Things are looking great. I'm gonna pick it up, and we seem to have a pretty the same amount of reveal all around, so that is good. And now that that is good, let's see, I am going to take a whole bunch of clean rags and place it on top of my piece. And then I'm going to put some really heavy weights on it to, you know, make it glue in there securely. Let's see. All right. So we'll let this stick in there. And then, like I said, I will be spraying it with this and attach a hanger on the back. Now the cross we just did, it's still drying over there. We just did this a minute ago, so obviously it's not dry yet. But I have another one that I have finished and I wanted to show you what it's going to look like in the end. So here is one all finished, the same cross, the same woods. You can see the black edges from the backer, the white in the back, and I used one of these hangers. I usually like to put my hanger somewhere in here, but because we have this flower, I was afraid that the screw is going to go in between the woods and it's going to be visible. So that's why I placed it higher here, because we have a solid piece of wall now there. So this is it, all done. I hope you enjoyed this project. I hope this was useful to you and you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skylar Ewing and I'll see you in my next video.